What's up, viewers, subscribers, and agents alike? This your boy Enlightened Luciferian Prince coming at y'all once again. I know that this beat on my channel is about to switch to something totally different, but it's fine because I want people to get some sort of cognizance of why I expound upon the secure part of creditor movement, the historical, the informational, and educational purposes of my channel. A lot of people might not like that, and that's fine because the toxicity of what you've been introduced to as far as education is concerned. But one topic I definitely want to touch on before I expound upon anything is eugenics. Now, I know that a lot of people don't want to hear about this, but I think it's very pertinent right now in this day and time, because what we have to understand, people, is that we're diametrically opposed to a particular minority of people who want to basically try to wipe us out. They tried before, but they couldn't. But now they have been more mechanically inclined to doing so. And eugenics has always been the mechanism for them to try to do this. Now, I know a lot of people might disagree with what I'm saying and so forth and so on because they've done very little to no research. But here's where I'm going to draw the line. And if you're watching this around children, please, I will watch my mouth. Allow your children to be able to be exposed to somebody who says something as opposed to what the systematic indifference has to say. And I will do my best, my very best, in my cognizance to not say any cuss words around children. I think it's very important. And the reason why is because I think that children need to learn about this as soon as they need to, before we get to a state of total decline. Before people think that the introduction of societal critical race theory and so forth is totally implied upon the system and doesn't want them to learn. Now, to the parents of those individuals who want to expound upon this, it's your duty and responsibility to break down exactly what I'm saying. But I'm going to give you a point of reference. Here we go. Basic information. Basic. And we know that word basic when it's public. The American eugenics movement was formed during the late 19th century and continued as the late 1940s. The American eugenics movement embraced negative eugenics with the goal to eliminate undesirable genetic traits in the human race through selective breeding. During the American eugenics movement, laws were enacted that legalized forced sterilization and prohibited individuals that had mental or physical defects and couples of mixed race from marrying. Now, this is from Bush and Rivard, book that was published in 2014. Book's name, and we'll get to in the article. Here's the truth, people. Let me tell you something about eugenics. Individuals that are of Caucasian descent can't survive. And I know that a lot of people who might view my channel might find that very disfavorable. You can't. You cannot intermix, because I'm going to go later on into my series about phenotypes and about certain genetic compositions that, if you always heard the misnomer, interbred, you have to understand that never coincided with us in our ilk. It coincided with other people who actually immigrated to this country and realized that they could not, and this is a fundamental fact, could not succeed without a selective breeding. Selective breeding only meant that what they desired, favorable and unfavorable, they actually had to graft into. I know this is going to take a lot of study and research to get into, but for those who are actually cognizant of what is going on, you would know that the most dominant species, as we say species, the actual dominant, I should say, individual who is ethereal as opposed to those who are temporal exists, is why we have this culture we have right now. Black versus white, Asian versus this, and so forth. It's all about a battle of survival and getting a basis of information out to try to make people think someone's better and someone is not that much better. But the truth is that we, those who are of the melanated corporation of self, and who actually came from the intergalactical spheres, know that we don't have to say in books and papers we're superior. We just simply are who we are. People find it hard to believe when I say this, that just your mere presence alone threatens the existence of the opposition. Your mere presence alone. So now they've come over here from centuries before, contrived a bunch of laws and a bunch of flaws to basically make it seem as if you were criminalized, or you were an individual, or a person who was to be deemed as inferior, when indeed you are the foundation of the land. Whether they want to believe it or not, it's fine. It's not about belief. It's about facts. Because as I stand here today, myself, I am living proof that that's a fundamental fact. I'm living proof. Living still in a system that totally does not, I don't give a fuck what nobody says on the political end or I don't care. That does not favor my existence, and I'm still here. I'm living proof. But we're going to give you some background information in order for you to know exactly what I'm saying. In 1833, Francis Galton created the term eugenics, which translates to well-born, from the Greek word eugenes. Enlightened, 2018, Miklos and Carlson, 2000. The purpose of eugenics is to improve the quality of the human race by encouraging the reproduction of humans with desirable traits. What are desirable traits? What is considered desirable trait? We'll get into that later. And discouraging those with weaker traits. Well, if we overstand the medical industry, there are a lot of women who actually go out here and try to get lip injections and rear implants, you know what I mean? And they try to make sure that they can try to make themselves what? More appealing to the opposition. These traits lie dormant and fully latent within our progeny. See this nose? See his nose? See his lips? And we're just going to stay head level. All that's desirable. They want you to have a little thin nose, a little thin lip. No. These are the things that they're chasing now because they've done study and analysis over centuries. Over centuries. Y'all think I'm lying, but I'm being real. Over centuries, because unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their lives in regards to these processes that they've done. But the truth is, they still desire to want to be like you. My hands. Literally. The size of a catcher's mitt. No joke. The height. Everything. They want to be you. But what's desirable is what's favorable because it's controlled by a certain imagery. Let's go further. Discouraging those with weaker traits. So we don't want no thick ass. You don't want no thin lips. We don't want no little bony ass nose. We want, if you where I'm at, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But genetics reinforced its prejudices of the time by deeming those with higher and desirable genetic traits, such as white, economic status, and healthy. Well, that's because you deprived the other people who had more desirable approaches than you did to try to deprive them of actually living better, because if they would have lived better based upon the vitality and status, they would be way better than you. And we still are here today. So you ain't gonna weaken us. Here it goes. Of were physically or mentally disabled. In addition, criminals and those who were deemed sexually deviant were considered undesirable. Well, we're all rapists today in this country. And no discrimination, but never mind, I ain't gonna say it. However, there was a difference in white people. Those with a Northern and Western European heritage were deemed desirable, while those that were from Southern and Eastern Europe were deemed undesirable. Europeans. Now, in America, The eugenics movement began in the 1900s with the work of Charles Davenport, who was a well-known leader of the American eugenics effort. Also known as the father of American eugenics movement, Davenport was a biologist who conducted early studies on heredity in animals and shifted his focus to humans. Davenport was also inspired by Galton's work with eugenics and how to reduce undesirable traits in the human race. I will say that again. Davenport was a biologist who conducted early studies on heredity in animals and shifted his focus onto humans. We're not the same. But, like the Europeans said, that's why we're in the condition we're in right now. Davenport also inspired by Galton's work with eugenics how to reduce undesirable traits in the human race. He became a member of the American Breeders Association, ABA, which had a scientific body that supported eugenic research with the goals to improve human breeding. In 1910, Davenport formed the Eugenics Record Office, ERO, at Cold Spring Harbor in Long Island, New York, where Harry Lawland worked as his side as his superintendent of the ERO. This is a book written by Miklos and Carlson, dated year 2000. The ERO collected information on family pedigrees that had physically, mentally, or morally desired traits. However, one of the ERO's main focuses was the inheritance of undesirable traits, as during this time of the movement was to eliminate them. Bush and Rivard, 2014. The most notable funding of the ERO was from John Harvey Kellogg. All you Kellogg cornflake eating motherfuckers now know that you have been targeted by the cereal that you've eaten and fed your children. Genetically modified organisms have always existed in the United States, but we ain't gonna go there. Was also an American eugenicist. He focused mainly on race degeneracy, as he believed racial mixing and mental defects would damage the human race. In 1911, John Harvey Kellogg organized the Race Betterment Foundation, which had a pedigree registry and hosted national conferences in 1914, 1915, and 1928. But the birth registry was never recognized by the federal government until the Shepherd-Towner Maternity Act of 1921. But we can see clearly here that what it's saying is existed long before then. It wasn't imputed into federal law until it became a fundamental fact of law to try to fucking wipe you out. Let's go further. Negative eugenics. There were two types of eugenics, positive and negative. Positive eugenics had the goal of improving the human race by encouraging those with desirable traits to breed. In contrast, negative eugenics focused on reducing degenerative offspring by preventing those that had undesirable traits from breeding. Positive eugenics was supported by British eugenicists, who were also Nazis, as encompassing Galton's viewpoint, and negative eugenics was endorsed by American eugenicists, which, if you know your research, do Operation Paperclip, know that they are scientifically engineering a lot of these other people who you think are white people who are really not. They're not, but we'll get there later. Theory sourced in the idea that unfit people are poor environments and damage heredity. Bush and Rivard, same book, 2014. However, American eugenicists focus mainly on the hereditary component, rather than the environmental. American eugenicists believe that degenerative behaviors such as alcoholism, poverty, and social dependency were all caused from genetic defects. Now, I'm going to show you the total fallacy in that in a second. Around 1910, American eugenicists also became concerned with feeble-mindedness, which they used to describe people with low IQs, abnormal behavior, sexual promiscuity, criminal behavior, and social dependency. Anyone that knows about sociology knows that anything that was named is a social inductive. If you have a degree, you actually been to college, such as myself, it is so-called higher schools, academia, these are called social inductives, or also known by suggestive behavior. First off, alcoholism is something that's introduced. It's not hereditary. If you took alcohol away from a society of people, totally like they did in the Prohibition era. Okay. So all of those people, let's take it from 1919 until 1933. Take it away. You have a generation of people who have been uninebriated and totally self-dependent. I don't care what color they are, wherever they resided, whatever. They were never inebriated enough to have it genetically inclined in their behavior. It's introductory behavior. Anyone that took Sociology 101 knows exactly what the fuck I'm saying is very true. Introductory Sociology 102, you know exactly what I'm saying is very true. Introductory Sociology 104 will let you know it's introductory. It's still something someone suggests to you. So take the college out of it, and let's just say a suggestive behavior, even if you haven't been to college, was posted on an advertisement. Me growing up, I used to go through my mom and dad's Jets magazine, Jet magazine. Okay, they're smoking. Smoking. Everybody's smoking, but ain't nobody smoking. Everybody, guess what color they are? If you get a 1986 Jet magazine, because I used to look at it for the beauty of the week, I'm just being real. You shave my game, but look at all the people who were in the advertisement. It's suggestive. That is not a determinative factor to your behavior. It's something that is suggested. It's given to you to make you believe you have to. But poverty is not something we choose because it's socially inducted to make us believe that we have to be that way. And we think that we just are, and we are in this condition because we are who we are. That's bullshit. That's social manufacturism. And you have social dependency, which means socialism, which was introduced in the early 1900s. All these dumbass motherfucking people who have degrees want to make you believe that because your mom smoked, you smoke. No. I am 33 years old and I do not smoke. I have smoked, but it didn't do me any better. If it's genetically inclined, then that means I will still do it because it's what's genetically inclined. Because who your parents are, you will always be. These are social introductory degrees to try to relegate the population. Facts, man. They treat y'all like y'all fucking stupid. One attempt to reduce the undesirable traits was to force sterilization. Dr. Harry Clay Sharp and other physicians lobbied for laws to allow involuntary sterilization of those who were hereditarily defective. You were never hereditarily defective. Don't believe that shit. Consequently, the first sterilization law was passed in Indiana in 1907. In 1914, Lawland created the model Eugenics sterilization law, which proposed the sterilization of the feeble-minded, quotation, of those that had feeble and mental defects. By this time, 12 states had passed sterilization laws, and 18 more eventually followed. Wow. As a result, between 1907 and 1939, more than 30,000 people, I'm probably sure it was way more than that, were sterilized unknowingly or against their consent. Most of the sterilization operations were conducted in California, where all your cigarettes come from, people. Most of your chemical products, food products, what else? Technological products, you name it. Even your household paints have a label on it. They even tell, even your bullets that you have in your trusty firearm tells you that these products contain chemicals known to the state of California to cause what? You don't believe it. Where more women were being sterilized than men, as many were deemed immoral and unfit for motherhood. Another effort to reduce the undesirable traits was through prohibition of mixed race and feeble-minded marriages. In 1896, Connecticut prohibited people that were feeble-minded or had epilepsy from marrying. How the fuck could you do that if you had epilepsy? We ain't gonna go there. And how could you actually say it was a mental disease that was not diagnosed until the 40s? Epilepsy, you'd never called it that. It was something different. But we'll go further. In 1913, 29 states prohibited mixed race marriages, as offspring with parents with two different races were deemed as genetically inferior to those that were of a single race. This legislation continued during the 1920s and led to forced sterilizations being ruled as federally legal in 1927. Through the Supreme Court case Buck versus Bell, Carrie Buck, a woman of lower economic status, was claimed to have been raped by a rich young man. We ain't got nothing to do with that. As a result, she was deemed feeble-minded and sterilized against her will. Many eugenicists accepted birth control as a method of reducing procreation. And here's where shit gets fuzzy. Leading the birth control movement, Margaret Sanger used the eugenics effort to support her agenda. And she was a wife of a prominent Klansman. Proven fact. Margaret Sanger, who was supported by Hillary Clinton, the same people that y'all sit here and support as democracy, but we'll get there later. Just as other eugenicists, Sanger also supported sterilization of those mentally unfit. Sanger stated that birth control was a way to prevent the defectives of producing offspring. One repercussion of the American eugenicist movement was that where events that later unfolded in Nazi Germany during World War II, under the direction of Adolf Hitler, thousands of people were sterilized that did not fit his ideal of the Aryan race, which eventually evolved in genocide of millions of so-called Khazarian people. I'm going to say Jewish. In his book, Mein Kampf, Hitler referred to American eugenics and cited how successful the sterilization laws were in California. How did Hitler have connections with California in World War II? We're going to let y'all leave that point. Do your own research. In addition, this time Davenport also supported Germany's racial hygiene and eugenics. He was on 2 editorial boards for the Zeitschrift für Menschliche Verbindungen, and I'm sure the racists will actually editorialize that, which were German racial hygiene journals. Therefore, the negative eugenics ideology formed in the U.S. influenced Hitler's forced sterilizations in Nazi Germany. This shit makes me sick to my fucking stomach. People of color, melanated, indigenous, Moorish, native, I don't care what the fuck you do. It has been declared, literally. And excuse my language, because I said I was going to do the best I could to, watch my mouth around to it. But it's too adult. If I don't say it's more propounded at any time in my history of time than to say this shit, I will say it now. They want to fucking kill you. Here's how they start. Education. Finances. Further education. Fundamental development. Social acquisition. Legal acquisition. And governmental recognition. I cannot tell you any much further. They want to kill you. Here's the beautiful part. If all that happened in 1907, according to the record, and we're still here, what does that tell you? Take the vaccine. This is their next step. How do you call an organization, Planned Parenthood, that has a design to never inquire about that person who aborts their child to be a parent? Even Umar Johnson ain't said that shit. How do you call it Planned Parenthood? Planned Parenthood? And they're aborting children. Y'all might not believe me, but do your research. they put most of these organizations that are headed by white women. Yes, I will say it. I ain't going to say white. I'm going to say Caucasoid women who desire to take the ability and biological data, because just because you abort a fetus don't mean it's dead. It's still living until 72 hours later. And they take that data, they take that information, and they go ahead and process it for themselves. Are y'all out of your fucking minds? Y'all not ready for eugenics because y'all is too scared. Some of us, the warrior class, we know exactly what we're saying. The man has to deposit seed. The man has to actually be attacked by what he puts in his body. And the woman has to be attacked by the product of her body, which is the basis of the system, which they want to try to take away from you. See, they put these, I'm going to be real, they put these coons out here to try to dissuade you, make you think that integration and all this shit is great. Let me tell you something. You're going to greatly reduce your population by 1,000th of a degree of what other populations of individuals have actually had. See, one thing about the war machine. The war machine don't lie. The war machine gonna tell the truth. See, I don't have to listen to this stuff. I look at datas and graphics. Yes, I said datas, not data. Data is singular. Yeah, people who've been to computer class know what I'm saying is true. Fuck what they saying. They want to wipe you out. They want to make it seem like you are the defect in society and want to take your motherfucking biological data out of this existence to make this existence. If it's already dysfunctional with y'all in charge, as y'all want to believe, where the fuck is this shit going? We've had too many planetary fails fucking with the system. It moved from planet to planet to planet and it failed. Y'all think I'm lying? Or do y'all ain't ready for that? That's too much, man. It moved from planetary plane to planetary plane. Why the fuck y'all think y'all live on a plane where people still trying to get the fuck off? Because they fucked up. Why you think they said heavens? Oh, y'all dumb? Y'all stupid as fuck. Straight. I ain't got no shame in saying it. They want the total exterior and us superior race of melanation to be gone so they could try to run this bitch. It's not gonna work, man. And you just learned a very significant truth in less than 28 minutes. Why do y'all think y'all have religion? All this shit is not new. There's nothing new under the sun. Y'all think this is the first creation of it? Y'all are infants to this motherfucking shit. Y'all are totally infants. And I'm just being real to the higher spiritual beings. Y'all really are. They transport this shit everywhere they go. They fuck up. How do you think they got here in the first place? Now they want to see you talk about we're going to expose aliens. Bitch, if you really realize and understand the truth, you know exactly what the truth is. They know who the real gods are, and they know who the fuck the real devils are. Because if you were for the benevolent purpose of life, you would want life to be. If you doubt what I'm saying, you have kids, watch the movie Avatar. If you got enough patience to sit there for 4 hours. The avatars was chilling. They had to send one in to their planet to be a clone and fuck everything up. Underneath the guise of what? Wanting to be one of them. Y'all better wake the fuck up. Straight. Because it's going to come to a time where some of y'all talking to ghosts and shells. Undesirable. Who the fuck gives the reason to be desirable? Or is that why this so-called Jesus is white? In the discussion, man. Piece of light. The pyramid, bro. Straight to the top. If no one told you more significant truth, if you believe it or not, I do not care. But this is the truth. We are the strongest beings. But they want to water us down at every angle. And then some of you dummies that's out there, y'all sit here and let social media influence y'all relationship. I ain't gonna lie. When they said the strong will survive, yeah, they're right. Straight. Because I'm still here. Still here. Still will live, still will thrive, and still will destruct this enemy system at any angle. Because whether you believe it or not, and how you see them people who are older, you know what I'm saying? They're a little bit older. And when they used to see motherfuckers used to come in there and put a little chip inside the enemy system, whole shit boil down, break down. See, the new generation, they just willing to accept everything that they shove down their throat. We know what we're doing. Wake the fuck up. Period. No outro.